At the time of this video's release, we can now say that we're in the month of Sonic Mania, my friends. The month of Mania has finally arrived, and I am incredibly excited.
Hey, this is Sonic, and you're watching Telekinestic Man.
So if you haven't been keeping up with Sonic news lately, you might have missed the announcement over a year ago now that we are getting the greatest video game of all time, Sonic Mania, this year. Sonic Mania is essentially a sequel to what is currently the greatest video game of all time, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It's a sprite-based 2D high-speed platformer with a playable Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, along with elemental shields, giant rings, special stages, mini-bosses, and character-specific pathways. So it's quite literally everything I love about Sonic 3 that I've wanted to see brought back for years. Now that we're getting so close to Mania's release, the hype is getting stronger by the second. Fellow YouTuber Cybershell has been making some fantastic Sonic videos in the past month or two, going over how great Mania looks, how great Sonic 3 is, and how awful Sonic 4 was. The recent Mania pre-order trailer sent me another blast of, oh my god, this is exactly what I've wanted Sonic to be like since forever, and I'm so glad they're getting him right again. And then even more recently, the San Diego Comic-Con panel for Mania revealed a few more awesome little details. Things like the special stage designs, which are like a hybrid of Sonic 3's Blue Sphere and Sonic CD's UFO stages, along with the music for these stages, some story details, and the announcement that the game will feature a fully animated introductory animation like Sonic CD. All of this is great news, and it just makes Mania look better and better every time they show off more of it. Take note, Sonic Forces. Now, don't worry if I'm sounding like a bit of a fanboy at the moment, because I am, as I will discuss my worries and potential issues for Mania later in this video. But for now though, let's go over why Sonic Mania will be the greatest video game of all time for those who don't quite understand, alright? So at this current moment, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the greatest video game ever made due to its perfect blend of platforming, speed, and exploration. The game is super fun to replay, which I can say for sure since I lost count years ago how many times I've played it, and I'm still finding new pathways and hidden special stage rings every time I go off my normal route of a stage. Now, okay, yes, I am exaggerating when I say greatest video game of all time and things like that, as Sonic 3 does have a few minor issues that, admittedly, are mostly fixed in fan-made ROM hacks like Sonic 3 Complete. Cybershell is a great video going over why Sonic 3 Complete is the best version of the game currently available, so go give that a watch later. Things like not being able to use double jump abilities without accidentally turning into a super form, not being able to cancel super forms, some minor glitches, sprite issues, and things like that. Also, there are a few handful of times when I do think enemy and hazard placement is a little bit cheap, mainly in Marble Garden Zone with the bubble placements and swinging spike balls. Not quite Sonic 2 bad or anything, and I love Sonic 2, but there are a few times when I feel the level design isn't quite accommodating for Sonic's speed as perfectly as the rest of the game. Again, most of these issues are addressed in fan-made ROM hacks, and hazard issues could be partially remedied with a Taxman and Stealth widescreen port of Sonic 3, which has been worked on, but Sega just won't allow it yet, which sucks. So why am I talking so much about Sonic 3 in a Mania video? Well, for starters, Mania is a direct sequel to Sonic 3, and the problem with games like Sonic 4 that claim to be Sonic 3 sequels was that they went backwards in design and removed fundamental positive attributes of Sonic 2 and 3. No insta-shield, no hidden special stage rings, no blue spheres, no Tails and Knuckles, no momentum at all, and blatantly stolen zones from Sonic 1 and 2. It's stuff like this that makes Sonic 4 such a joke, and it seriously blows that Sega wasted a great title of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 on such an embarrassing entry into the quote-unquote classic series. What I'm trying to say now is that Sonic Mania, aside from the removal of the insta-shield and the return of old zones, which I will touch on more later, is the real Sonic 4, 100%. It's clear that the entire development team studied Sonic 3 and Knuckles thoroughly in order to understand the core design elements that made it so great, and applied this information to Mania's design. I will admit, I was a little bit worried at first that Mania was adopting too much from Sonic CD, and while I do enjoy CD, its level design is far too vertical, maze-like, and bouncy for my liking. There are springs and bumpers everywhere in Sonic CD, with Collision Chaos and Wacky Workbench heavily suffering from this design mentality. But now that we have an even further look at Mania's levels with Green Hill Act 2, Mirage Saloon, and glimpses of Flying Battery, Chemical Plant, and Stardust Speedway, it seems pretty clear to me that the team is strictly aiming for a Sonic 3-like experience. And I couldn't be happier. However, what is obviously the key most fundamental component of classic Sonic design is momentum and a degree of physics-based platforming, and thanks to Taxman, this was guaranteed right from the start. Mania is running on Taxman's Retro engine, most famously used for his ports of Sonic 1, 2, and CD to smart devices, and PC and consoles for CD only. These widescreen versions of the games featured a flawless transfer of classic Sonic's physics, something that every Sonic game since Sonic 3 could only dream of achieving. Sonic 4 certainly couldn't do it, Sonic Advance was sorta close, Sonic Generations wasn't close at all, and even Generations 3DS, which had some key physics elements for classic Sonic, wasn't 100% there. Even with the fantastic level design, amazing art direction, widescreen, and multiple characters, Mania would be nothing if Sonic and Friends didn't feel right. It's like when you play 2D Sonic fan games that aren't running directly off the core Mega Drive engine. They feel close, but not quite there most of the time. I assume this is why most of the biggest 2D Sonic fan games have actually been fan hacks instead, as they can utilize Sonic's core momentum and feel from the original game's code. The reason classic Sonic works so well is that Sonic's core movement has so much nuance and room for player variety and expression that maintaining your speed is not only challenging, but extremely fun and simple to understand. Rolling down hills increases speed, running up hills is faster than rolling, jumping off a badnik or item box from high up in the sky provides a bounce back into the sky with equal force and height while still conserving the player's horizontal momentum, etc, etc. Here's my one big thesis statement regarding the classic Sonic games and what makes them so important. Speed is a reward for skillful platforming, and vice versa. This is why I feel a lot of people like to say now that they went back and played the classic Sonic games and they were bad because they weren't fast, or something like that. Sega is admittedly partially to blame for this due to Sonic's marketing in the 90s, but Sonic is not about non-stop high-speed action. The player has to learn the game's mechanics and level design to master Sonic's speed, and his speed ties directly into skillful platforming and exploration. Using inclines with a spin dash to launch Sonic over obstacles, or using conserve momentum to blast over a series of platforms instead of taking the time to slowly stop and time each individual jump, are just some of the ways that Sonic's speed as a game mechanic is entirely reliant on skill. When someone plays Sonic Unleashed or Sonic Generations and then comes back to Sonic 2 or 3 and complains that they don't feel fast, which yes, I have heard firsthand from people before, it's because they aren't really playing it right. I don't enjoy employing the get good Dark Souls mentality here, but I'm sorry, Sonic isn't Mario. I'm not saying Mario is easy, but he's simple, traditional, easy to understand. Sonic's entire design philosophy was to be the opposite of Mario, to challenge the conventions of platformers at the time. If you play classic Sonic and expect Mario-styled simplicity, but with non-stop high speed regardless of your lack of knowledge of Sonic's core concepts, then I'm sorry to say that you're not thinking very logically here. Even the guys over at Red Letter Media made this mistake when revisiting the classic Sonic titles a few years ago, and I love those guys, but they just didn't get the point of Sonic. Mainly from the misdirection of his marketing and the gotta go fast meme trash that's on currently, making it seem like Sonic is about non-stop speed all the time. If I still haven't sold you on this element of Sonic's design and how important it is, please check out ShayMay's series Sonic Spitball, mainly part 1. He goes extremely in-depth in terms of Sonic's controls and design, and while each part is as long as a feature-length film, they are definitely worth it. My overall point here is this. Sonic Mania, even if some of its potential issues that I will address later do negatively impact the game in some regard, it will still be a true follow-up to the classics due to its utilization of Sonic's momentum and speed-based platforming. Whereas Sonic Forces... like seriously, I've been extremely underwhelmed about Sonic Forces ever since the initial reveal just over a year ago.
This has got to be a joke. So this is literally just Generations 2.
No gameplay though, is that it? I don't know, like, I'm excited, I'm looking forward to it, but like, I don't really have anything to be excited about though, like they didn't show anything. I would be excited with like a Generations 2 provided they showed off like a little bit more. Like I want to see what the different, like if modern Sonic is like only 3D or it has like adventure style or something, or I don't know. I'm a bit worried how it made it look like a dark and edgy like thing though. That's a little bit, I don't know, Sonic Mania got like a reaction out of me, but this I was just kind of like, oh. I wanted Sonic Team to impress me with this game, and give me 2 new Sonic games to be excited for, but at the moment, Forces just looks like another flop. Thankfully, most of my followers seem to agree with me.
Aside from the ones who dislike a video because they're a bunch of babies and got angry that I said Forces looks bad with heavily justified reasoning.
But anyway, let's cut off all this in-depth physics stuff and get back to the fact that Mania releases this month! How about that collector's edition in vinyl? I've got a pre-order down for the Switch version of the CE, as it was the cheapest option for shipping to Australia. I will try and see if I can use the American Switch download code for Mania on my Switch without needing to make an American account, but if that doesn't work, I will definitely do a giveaway for my Switch version of Mania for my American viewers. Keep in mind the shipping to Australia for that collector's edition will take a couple weeks, so the giveaway, if the code doesn't work for me, will not be done right at launch. So yeah, at this point I've basically mentioned that I've already bought 2 copies of Sonic Mania, as I'll certainly be getting it for my Switch, even though I already have it pre-ordered on Steam. Want some boring details of why I'm so hyped for Mania's release date? Okay, so keep in mind that here in Australia our time zone is way further ahead than in America's. So when it's 4:30 in the afternoon in California, it's 9:30 in the morning of the next day here in Brisbane, which is here on the map of Australia, by the way. This means that while Mania is releasing August 15th, we don't see it until much later that day if it's a midnight launch. Or perhaps not until the next day if the game releases later on August 15th American time. Both the 15th and 16th of August are days that I have classes on for university. Literally the 2 only days I have to go into the campus of each week, which sorta stinks. But there is one crucial detail. Every year Brisbane hosts the Royal Queensland Show, referred to as the Ekka for exhibition. It's basically just like a huge week-and-a-half long carnival with rides, animals, food, show bags, and other junk. Because this event is so large, Brisbane receives a public holiday on the Wednesday of the main week of the Ekka. And what are the times of the Ekka this year? I get the day off for Sonic Mania, my boys! This gives me 2 options, both of which depend on the time the game hits Steam. Option 1, get home after university Tuesday afternoon, and if Mania releases at midnight American time, I can stay up late Tuesday night playing it and not worrying about the next day as it's a day off. Probably won't beat the entire game overnight, but I want to play a decent chunk, then go to sleep, get up the next day, and play the rest of my first run. Option 2, the game doesn't release until sometime in the day of August 15th, so I just go to bed and spend all day of the Ekka public holiday playing Sonic Mania by the time it releases in Australian time. Simple as that. So yes, if you're wondering, I do have a schedule planned out for how I will play Sonic Mania the moment it releases. It's sort of a tricky thing actually, because I really love how secretive Sega and the devs have been about all the stages and bosses in Mania, which means we can actually have some surprises while playing, which would be wonderful. Zelda Breath of the Wild earlier this year taught me to know as little as possible about games now to get the most enjoyment out of them. It was the same with Baby Driver, which I only saw one trailer for and then didn't hear anything else about it until I actually saw it, and I was completely blown away. It's probably one of my favorite movies now, up there with Back to the Future and Jurassic Park. The problem with this mentality for Mania is that I don't want to rush through the game just to see every major stage before it gets spoiled for me on Twitter. I want to explore, I want to find secret stuff, I want to collect all the Chaos Emeralds, I want to do a Tails and Knuckles run right after my Sonic run. It honestly might just be a case of don't touch Twitter until you beat Sonic Mania sort of thing, which kinda sucks. But I'll probably be too distracted by how amazing and Game of the Year worthy Sonic Mania is to even care anyway. Okay, so I have been hyping up Mania ever since its unveiling. I mean, did you see how excited I was when it was first shown off? Oh! Yeah! Sonic 3 and Knuckles! Please! Please!
Stay calm, everybody. Stay calm. We're almost there. I promise. We are
What?
almost there.
What?
Holy shit!
Sonic CD?
Whoa! 3 playable characters? Yes! Finally! I'm looking forward to that. It's a sequel to 3 and K. But there are some small concerns I do have with it. I want to stress that I have pretty much 99% complete faith in Christian Taxman Whitehead, Simon Still Tomley, Tee Lopes, and their team in making Sonic Mania the best it can possibly be, as these guys have proven time and time again that they know what's right for classic Sonic. But still, here are my fairly minor worries, nitpicks, and criticisms for Sonic Mania. Number 1, old levels returning. Look, this is a problem with every Sonic game recently. Generations was the last straw for, okay Sonic Team, you can get away with Green Hill Zone one last time. But then they pushed it again with Lost World, and now Green Hill is back again for both Mania and Forces in the same year. Now, Mania at least has a little bit of a reason, but I had the feeling the dev team wanted to do all original stages, and Sonic Team insisted they revisit old ones for the sake of anniversary nostalgia and saving development time. This is the only real thing that holds Mania back as being the real Sonic 4, as a good chunk of the levels will be borrowing aesthetics, music, enemies, and level design from Sonic 1, 2, CD, and 3. Now, the fact that they're making an effort to make these levels feel new, and rather than being Generations time travel stages, are actually the same levels from the original games, but in the present time of Mania, makes me respect the decision a little bit more. I'm still going to be far more excited about playing new stages than old ones, and I hope to God this is the last Sonic game to pull the Green Hill Zone card again. Mania 2, which will happen because this game will sell a ton, better be all entirely new levels, bosses, and music. Number 2, no insta-shield? This is another small one, but Sonic's insta-shield from 3 and K was so great at making it feel unique. You could phase through enemies with frame-perfect timing, extend your attacks to hit those just out of your reach, and in Sonic 3 Complete even deflect projectiles as originally intended. The drop dash seems fine, but come on, the Insta Shield is a way better ability for Sonic to have. Maybe it'll be an option to have in the final game, but I don't know, it hasn't appeared in any demos so far. I just feel that with Tails being able to fly, Knuckles being able to glide, climb, and break down walls, Sonic only having a dropping spin dash that saves him maybe a half a second of revving up isn't all too special in my eyes. Number 3, the fan team. I want to stress again that I have 99% faith in these guys for making an amazing game, but there are always some concerns with the fan team. For one thing, Taxman's boss for Sonic 2 Mobile's restored Hidden Palace boss was pretty bad, so I'm hoping all the bosses in Mania are going to be better than that, basically. The fairly recently released fan game Sonic Time Twister was a pretty amazing return to the Sonic 3 formula, and I really thought it had some great people behind it, until I started getting into the tone of the story. For some reason, Dr. Eggman is dead after Sonic 3, and Metal Sonic is trying to bring him back to life. Yeah, okay. Then the final boss is a giant Eggman cyborg body thing in space, and Sonic kills him by flying through his body and impaling him, complete with blood and severed limbs. Like, whoa, talk about going from a super awesome fan game to a weird Sonic fan game really quick. I am not saying Mania will have anything like this at all, good god no, but there's always the chance of some weird little tonal inconsistencies with the way Sonic feels that may be present outside of the core gameplay, which we already know is good from the public demos and the like. The fact that Sonic Team are backing this makes this a very unlikely possibility, and with artists like Tyson Hess being involved, and the input from Aaron Webber, I think this shouldn't end up ever being a problem. I'm really just bringing this up as a just-in-case sort of prediction. So, will Sonic Mania actually be my game of the year? It's certainly very likely, but that new Mario Odyssey trailer and even Metroid Samus Returns might end up contesting against it a little bit. Perhaps a better question is, will Sonic Mania be better than Sonic 3 Knuckles? This is probably the hardest question in the entire universe for me to answer, and I'm honestly not sure. The one advantage that Sonic 3 will always have over Mania is simply that it's entirely original and not relying on any old levels or gimmicks, and also set the trend for future games like Mania to follow from. But on the other hand, Mania's got widescreen, hyper-fluid animations, a game length apparently comparable to 3NK, and probably no infamous sections like the Carnival Night Barrel or Sandopolis Zone. Oh god, I completely forgot to mention earlier that Sandopolis is like the only big problem with Sonic 3 that I have. That level sort of stinks. It's all up in the air, but in the end, I hope that I can comfortably say to people, Sonic Mania? Oh hell yeah man, that game's just as good as Sonic 3, or something like that. Will it be better? Probably not, but as good? I sure hope so. And this is about it for the Month of Mania video. I hope you guys are all just as excited as I am for Sonic Mania, because it's the game I have wanted from Sonic for a good long while now. I might do some coverage on the game when it hits, probably not a full in-depth review as I'll be studying stuff for university at the time, but I'll definitely try and do something about it post-release. I'll probably be posting stuff on Twitter all through the week of the game's release, so if you want to see exactly what I'm thinking right as it happens, you can follow me on there. After that, I'll probably just make 5 videos in a row going over how awful Sonic Forces looks, and get spammed with dislikes from 5-year-olds who'll buy anything with Sonic's face on it. See you all next time, and enjoy these last couple weeks before Mania finally hits.